Hi guys, welcome back to another sewing tutorial with Chioma Stitches. My name is Chioma. In the light of the series I've been bringing you guys, by the way, this is not the first one. We already have up to 1, 2, 3 series already on the channel. So if you have not seen them, I'm going to be dropping the link to some of them in the description box. You can check them out. So these classes they are coming as a series, and this is going to be one of the series, like a season, okay, and it's going to come in episodes because the video from drafting to cutting and sewing everything is quite long, so I am cutting them into episodes, okay, at least 4 to 5 episodes or 6 for each of them. Okay, so today we're making a jumpsuit, and we're going to be drafting the bodies for the jumpsuit, drafting the sleeve, the trouser part of the jumpsuit, all of it, and then we'll go into our transferring to fabric and then cutting. So I'm using these two Ankara to sew. I'm going to be combining them. When I was placing order for this Ankara, this green, these colors were they matched, like the pictures I saw online matched, but now that I'm looking at it, the distinction is quite there, but I'm going to make it work. Okay, and this is the lining we're going to be using. We're also going to be using our breast pad for the upper part of the bustier. And so let's get into the drafting process proper. Okay, all right. So for the upper bodies, the half length we're working with is 19 inches. So I'm going to be marking out 19.5 inches, so that half an inch will be for joining the upper bodies to the lower bodies. Okay, so that I won't be needing to add extra half an inch when I am transferring to fabric. So that is why I'm adding half an inch. So I'm working with 19.5 inches. I'm going to mark out 19.5 inches, and then I'm going to divide the box by 11. I'm going to be using 11 inches to divide by the box, or 11.5 inches to divide the box. This is so that we can draft and alter the bustier however we want. So let me go ahead and divide this box. Okay, so now I am going to be putting the measurements, and first we're going to be starting with the shoulder measurement, and the shoulder we're working with is 7.5 inches. So I am going to be putting our 7.5 inches. So this is the front part, so I'm obviously going to use exactly 7.5 inches here. And then for the back, I am going to be considering 1 inch for that, for zip, and this part, so I am going to be marking out 8.5 inches. And then for the back, we are going to be coming down by 1 inch for shoulder slanting. For the front, we come down by 1.5 inch for shoulder slanting. Always note that. And then for the armhole, to get your armhole, you divide the bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 to it. Okay, I use that for all, and it always matches. So the bust we're working for is 39 inches. Divided by 6 will be 6.5 plus 1.5 is going to give us 8 inches. So from this 1 inch shoulder slanting, I'm going to come down by 8 inches. And then for the front, I'm going to bring down the same 8 inches. But since from here what we have is 1.5 inch for the front, I already know that from the shoulder line, the whole of it here is 9 inches. I'm just going to bring the 9 inches here. Now I'm going to connect these two lines. This is the armhole. Okay, next I'm going to be connecting a straight line from this armhole to the shoulder slanting. Okay. Now for the back, to curve in the back, we go up by, we divide the armhole by 2, and I have 8 inches here, which is 4. I'm going to go in by half an inch, and I'll be using my curved ruler to connect it. From this half an inch, I've slanted inside to the armhole, while using the straight one to connect a straight line straight to the 1 inch shoulder slanting. Then for the neckline, you get to decide what you want your neckline to be. If it's a dress that's going to be directly on top of your shoulder, your collarbone, okay, you can just use your bust divided by 12. So 39 divided by 12 will give me 3.25. I'm just going to make it a round number and use 3.5. So I have 3.5 here, and because this is the back part and there is 1 inch zip allowance here, so I'm going to be marking 4.5. Okay, so I had to mark out the zip allowance so I don't make the mistake of increasing the measurement when it shouldn't be. Okay, alright, so now that I have the 4.5, so from here now, if you're now marking from after the zip allowance, you have 3.5. I'm going to come down by 1 inch or half an inch, depending on what you want to achieve. Okay, so let me do it half an inch and 1 inch, so I can mark out any of them, because I'll be using this pattern for 2 different jumpsuits. Okay, so I can also extend this line all the way to the zip. Don't mind my cuff that is so scattered because I kept dragging it. Alright, now from that neckline, I can now connect the 1 inch shoulder slanting. Okay, now, and then for the front part, I am going to be coming in by 3.5 for the neckline, and I will come down by 4 inches. Depends on what you want. You can also go use 3.5 by 3.5. But if I have to alter it, I can also do 3.5, and I'll change it when I am. So I have 3.5 by 3.5 and then 3.5 by 4 inches. So this means I have 2 different neckline markings here. Okay, then I can use my straight ruler to connect it to the 1.5 inch shoulder slanting. Now from here, for the armhole of this front part, I'm going to go up by 3.5 or 3 inches. Okay, let me go by 3 inches, and then I'm going to come in by, now if you want it to be very tight, the reason why you come in here is to avoid the bulginess around the sleeve and the arm when you wear a dress. So for this one, I'm going to go in by 0.5 as well, and I'm going to be connecting that half an inch to the shoulder slanting, and then I'm going to use my armhole curve to curve the armhole. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is impute the other measurements, which is the from shoulder to the top of the bust. I'm going to be doing 6.5 for this one, so I'm marking 6.5, and then shoulder to the bust, I'm going to mark out 11 inches, so I'm marking 11 inches. And then the shoulder to the underbust is 15 inches. So I'm going to be using my ruler to connect these lines. So I have the bust, the underbust, and the top of the bust, and I've marked out the line. Alright, so when you're taking the measurement for your half length, this is your shoulder to the curvy part of your body. You get to understand that most of us, our body parts are not the same. For those who are very busty and have tiny waist, you find out that the shoulder to your waistline for the front might be up to 4 inches or 3 inches longer than that of your shoulder to your waistline at the back. Okay, so but for this person, their shoulder to their waistline is just 2.5 inches longer than the back line. And so since our half length for the front is 19.5 inches, we're just going to go ahead and take out 2.5 inches from the back, and that 2.5 inches is going to come back at the front around the bust area for the bust tightening. So I'm going to mark out the 2.5 inches on the back. Okay, right, so next we're going to start imputing the measurements, and for the back we're going to be starting with the dart, and to get our dart we're going to be using our bust span, and for this person's bust span it's 8 inches divided by 2 will be 4 inches, and that's the nipple to nipple measurement. So I'm going to be marking out the bust span here, and I'm starting from the line before the zip allowance, so I'm just going to roll it down. And for that, I am using 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches into 2 will be 0.75 inches. I'm going to be marking 0.75 inches on both sides of this line, and then I'm going to connect it all the way to the bust line. Also, to avoid the back gaping, when you put up the zip, we take the waist tightening for the zip area around the waist, and we're taking 1.5 inches from the waistline, and it can go up all the way up to the shoulder line or up to the armhole. So I might come up to the armhole here, and I'm going to slant it there. So I'm going to roll it up, and then I'm going to slant it to meet this mark at the armhole. Then the side measurements, your bust divided by 4. So for this measurement, the bust divided by 4 is 9.75. So I'm going to be marking the 9.75. Also noting you are marking from the line before the zip allowance, so 9.75. And then for the waistline, the waist is 32 inches divided by 4, which will be 8 inches, plus 1.5 inches for that will be 9.5 inches. So I'm going to mark it at 9.5 inches, and I'm going to connect this line to the bust line. And you can also roll this all the way down to the armhole. Okay. I'm just going to seal this tear here with a tape roll. Alright, then it's time to work on the front pattern. For the front pattern, we're also going to be using the bust span to take out our dart. So I'm going to be marking out the bust span 4 inches all the way to the down part. For the waist dart, we're also taking out the same 1.5 inches, which is 0.75 on both sides. Instead of rolling the dart line all the way to the bust, I'm going to come up to the underbust. So I'm transferring this dart all the way to the underbust. So I'm going to mark out 0.75 here and 0.75 here. And now to tighten the underbust, I'm going to be taking out more than this 0.75. I'm going to be taking out 2 inches from the underbust. And so from here, when I mark out my 2 inches here, I have my 2 inches all the way up here. So I have 1.3 here and 0.75 here. And I'm going to be using my curved rule to connect it to the bust point. And so from here, I'm going to be connecting this line from the underbust to the bust point. And for this line, mark, if you have your curved rule, use your curved rule to do this. It helps to give you a cleaner mark. And you can also decide to come down from the bust point, can come down by 1 inch before you do this. But if you use a curved rule like this, you don't need to come down by 1 inch, because it completely takes it in and it stops exactly at that 1 inch. Okay, but if you have to do this with a free hand, do well to come down by at least 1 inch from your bust point before you connect this lines. And then I'm going to reverse the roller and connect this other side the same way to the bust point. And as you can see with the ruler, it also comes all the way to the 1.1 inch that I've marked down. Now I can now connect this other line to meet this dart. And at this point, you have to try to smoothen out the dart, because we don't want to have any pointy parts around the dart area. Okay, next thing we're going to do is tighten the upper bust. Now the upper bust part, I'm going to be tightening it with 1 inch, which is 0.5 on both sides of the line, of the dart line. And also using my curved ruler, I am going to be marking out this. Okay, and then we're going to be imputing the measurement for the bust. 39 inches divided by 4 is going to be 9.75. So I have my 9.75, and I'm going to connect it here. So for the underbust line, to mark out the underbust, we're going to be dividing it by 4 as well, and then we're going to be adding the 2 inches from the dart that we've added. Okay, so for the underbust we have 35 inches divided by 4 plus 2 inches, and we have 10.75. So I'm going to mark in the 10.75, and after marking this, it will not look straight, but it will give you exactly what you want when you're done sewing, so long as you use an accurate measurement, of course. So for the waistline, we divide 32 divided by 4, and then we add a 1.5 inches, and we have 9.5. So now I'm going to be connecting these lines using straight rule. Now at this point, we can now take out these 2.5 inches from the side for the bust dart. So I'm going to mark out the 2.5 inches here. Okay, so at this point now, you can also decide if the person you are working with is someone that is very busty and has curved boobs, and their boobs are quite very full. You can try to come out from here by 1 inch, and then from that 1 inch you are going to connect the line to the dart. Okay, now but if someone that is just chubby but their bust is not very full, you can decide to mark it all the way from the bust dart to the bust point with a straight line. So I'm using this red ruler to differentiate this so that we will know the difference. Okay, all right. So if you're someone that is not busty, you can decide to do it this way. Otherwise, if the person's bust is very full, to add more fullness to it when you are cupping it, to give it a better clean cup, you come out by 1 inch, and you take the 1 inch from the side all the way to the bust, to the 1 inch you've covered that. All right, so now we're going to try and cut out this pattern for the back, and then when we're cutting it, we can take out the darts, the bust dart. So let's take out the bust dart. First, I'm going to be opening this. And to take out the bust dart, I'm going to be opening this dart, taking out the dart on the waistline. So here I am going to open up this dart by the 1 inch that I have opened up. As you can see, you open up the 1 inch, and then you're going to fold in your pattern from this 1 inch to meet the former bust line. Okay, to meet the bust line. So here. Now as you can see, the bust line has shifted. It has moved away from exactly where it was before. It has moved up ahead. So now what we're going to do is connect this new bust line to the armhole using the curved ruler. So just mark it all the way. Let me use a red marker to differentiate this tightening. Okay. To keep this in place, you can either use your tape or use your pins to hold it down, but I would advise you use your tape because the pin might fall off at some point, but your tape is going to be more visible. If it falls off, you will notice it better. So I'm going to tape it down to keep this as one piece. And so now the opening that has been created under here because of this because of the bust dart, this opening that has come up here, you're going to be covering it by picking up a piece of paper, place it under the pattern, and just retrace your line to connect the lines. Okay, I'm going to retrace the lines, so I'm just going to use this marker to retrace it to cover up that hole over. Okay, And just like we did for this part, you can also use your pin or whatever to hold it down, but I intend to use the tape to hold it down from the back so that it will not cover what we have done in the front. And then you can also cut it out. All right, but then you're going to decide how you want your neckline to be. If you're going to differentiate the upper bodice from the yoke, whatever design you're going to create on the upper bodice, this is where you start working on it. Okay, so for what we're trying to do, the reason why I moved the upper body, the top of the bust all the way to this place, instead of using 7 inches, I use 6.5 inches. This is because the fabric we're going to be using for the main bodice is going to be different from the one we'll be using for the yoke. Okay, so for this is the front yoke and this is the back yoke. Okay, so the space where I need the yoke to be, I'm going to be coming up by 1/2 inch again from the original marking. Okay, now that I have marked out this new line, I'm going to transfer this top part that I will mark it up as well to connect it to the new top of the bust. Because obviously this that we have to also take it out here. This is to help the bust tightening, to give the bust better curving. Okay, so now I'm going to be cutting out this pattern. So this is our pattern, and because of this bust tightening, if you see, when you try to match this new part and here, it matches completely. This is because we have eliminated the difference, the 2.5 inches difference from the side. We have eliminated it at the bust tightening. Okay, so this is our pattern that we're going to be using for the upper part of this jumpsuit. Next, we're going to be drafting the sleeve, basic sleeve pattern for it. That will be our episode 2, and episode 3 will be the trouser drafting. So please stay tuned. See ya.